Okay, greetings everybody. Hope everyone's enjoying the marathon so far. What I have for you today is the TurboGrafx CD version of Ys Book 1 and 2. And with no further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the game, and we'll talk about this as I do some of the initial stuff. So timing will start when I hit this start button, so I'll count it down. It'll be 3, 2, 1, go. All right, so this is not the very original version of Ys, but nonetheless one of the first, one of the earliest and most polished kind of retro ports of the initial games that came out on like the PC-88 and other early Japanese computers. And so this is sort of the definitive console version. And as you watch this game, I want you to keep in mind one thing, which is that this game came out in Japan in 1989 and in the United States in 1990. This game predates the Super Famicom Super Nintendo, and it's just this amazingly polished, unspeakably ahead of its time game, and I really love this game a lot. So what's kind of unique about this game is that it actually has both games bundled together and back-to-back. You can't even select Ys 2, you just play Ys 1 and finish it and go into 2 like it's one big game. Alright, so Sarah here asks us to help her out, and we're going to ignore her and immediately go out and do some fighting. All right, at the very beginning of this game, there is actually a pretty strict gold requirement. Sarah will not actually give us the first progression item until we have a full set of equipment, and she's very strict about that. So we need to go get some extra money from the field here. And I'm going to start out by killing a few of these blue knight enemies who are worth 10 a pop. We just want an extra 100 here. I'm also going to pick up an item over to the right. So Ys 1's very good about having some kind of quick start items available if you know what you're doing. You probably wouldn't get these on your very first playthrough of the game, but if you return to it and replay it, you can skip a lot of the opening grinding by knowing kind of some secrets. I want to avoid that wolf enemy because he hits really hard. All right, now we need 6 more kills. And you can kind of see, the bump combat. We've already seen one version of Ys 2 in this marathon last night, but if you haven't seen that yet, the central gimmick of the gameplay of the early Ys games was that you kill things by ramming into them. And the gimmick of it is you want to be slightly off-center to them. You want to be like on the sort of half-tile offset from the enemy, and that's kind of the optimal position to be in. So we start out by selling our golden vase for 2,000, buying a warp wing for 2,000, buying the engagement ring to give back to this guy who will give us a bit of a reward, and we're off to the races. Now we have enough money to do our initial shopping, and we'll get rolling in the game. Mismenued there. One thing I should say about this game is this is the first time I've done this in a marathon in a long time. I kind of hadn't touched this game for a long time and decided to come back to it and do some rerouting or introducing some tech I had come up with over the years, just kind of as idle thoughts, and do some testing. So I'll talk a little bit about routing and the speedrun here. Just in the last week, I've brought the speedrun for this category down 11 minutes and the speedrun for the Book 1 standalone category down a couple, mostly with route changes and better optimization of the actual routing. Alright, so we get started, we get our initial gear. Sarah gives us the crystal, which is needed to progress in a second here. And we're off to our first dungeon, just right away. Ys 1 drops you right into the action. Something else you'll notice is this kind of slow crawl text. Any kind of story significant text or anything the game wants you to know, it'll play slower text like this. Not all the text does that. Some of them sort of irrelevant NPC dialogue and stuff doesn't do that, and you can just kind of go through it real quickly. But nonetheless, you have this kind of slow down text. I want to make sure I get this level. And we're off to the shrine, the initial shrine. Okay. We're going to pick up one more item here that we can sell for some more money later, and then we're going to go right into our first boss of the game, Genocris. The TurboGrafx version of the game is fairly faithful to the original PC-88 in some respects, but also makes a lot of subtle changes. It's an updated engine, a completely different kind of remake. One of the biggest differences is the leveling curve and the way experience points kind of work out. In the original game, East 1, you got maxed out at level 10, and you could get to level 10 very early. You'd get to level 10 before you even entered the final dungeon. In this game, they rebalanced all the leveling so that it's a little different. Getting kind of bad RNG here. We just want to wait for him to kind of spawn in the middle here. Okay. Yeah, now in terms of things that were remarkable for the time, get ready. We're about to see something really cool in about a minute here. Okay, now we're into the shrine proper, and we have a few things to do here. This area is the source of one of my biggest reroutes in terms of kind of coming back to Book 1 after a hiatus. Something I'm going to do here that you may not even notice because it's so fast. You might have seen I opened the menu there, and I opened the save menu. I did not actually save my game. I didn't confirm. But there's a really interesting undocumented feature in this game where if you just open the menu, it creates a checkpoint. So if I were to die, I would go right back to where I just was when I opened that menu. So it's like this kind of quick save feature. Very useful. I'll be using that a lot through the run, particularly more in a marathon run than I normally would, just for some spots where there's like a 1% chance of a death or something. But okay, we kill Genocris, we get the prison key. I want to grab some gold on enemies as I walk around here as well. And then we're going to see one of the other really unique features of this game.
Are you here to rescue me? How wonderful it would be to escape these chains. I have been locked up here for too long. My name is Fina.
So Hudson, who developed this port, spared no expense and used the storage capacity of the CD-ROM to include voice acting. Remember, this game is from 1990. This is pre-Super Nintendo, and this game has voice acting. It actually has really good voice acting. Even the English localization of this, they actually hired real cartoon actors and people that knew what they were doing. So, for example, if you're familiar with the name Jim Cummings, he is one of the voice actors who will be one of the Book 2 characters. Fina there is another voice actor named Debbie Derryberry, who is also pretty well known, I think. And this has a really good cast, and they spared no expense. I really think that NEC Hudson viewed this game as kind of a killer app. They were like, we're going to go all out on production value and really try to show people what the CD-ROM can do, and really kind of make this a set piece or showpiece kind of game for the system in an era where they were still really trying to compete with Nintendo for market share. So you have this incredibly polished game, way ahead of its time. Yeah, and all Red Book audio, music, and everything. Okay, so now this is one of the biggest route changes. I'm a little concerned about this enemy, so let me pause and make sure I do this right. Okay, so in my old route, what I would do at this point in the game is I would go back and grind in that area where I picked up the prison key on those 3 blue enemies. Here I'm going to not do that, and I'm going to skip it, and just pick up the silver bell and walk out of the dungeon. The grind was actually not for experience, but for money, to replace the warp wing, which are very expensive in this port. But instead, we're just going to hoof it and kind of do this manually. And this turns out to be pretty much exactly the same speed as doing it the other way, maybe actually a little faster even. But it has some other advantages in terms of how it sets up the rest of the run. It allows me to grab this item on the way out without really slowing down, and just kind of overall works out real nicely. Okay, so we're not going to do the shrine in one shot. We're not done with this dungeon because we're not remotely powerful enough in terms of equipment to handle the back half of it. We would have to grind a lot. It would be very slow, so you really don't want to do that. Oh, actually, I need one more experience point. I guess I'll get it on the next screen. The silver bell, we return to the mayor, and he gives us the power ring, which doubles our offensive power. This is a very important item in this version. It helps me grind a lot faster in the areas where I'm getting experience. So this ends up saving a couple minutes over the course of the run, even though it is a bit of a detour to grab it. Alright, let me kill one enemy here, make sure I get this level. We do need it. And now we're going to do a bit of a sequence break. This is actually sort of traditional. I think every Ys speedrun does this. And it's not particularly discouraged by the game. But we're going to go into the second dungeon a little bit underpowered here. So I'm using this quick save feature a lot because this area is quite dangerous. Particularly this opening walk, I want to make sure I have a restore point too. So I don't really want to take any damage until after I get this chest. Now we put on the silver armor and the power ring, or the armor ring, excuse me, which we picked up in the shrine there. And the way this works out is I have enough armor, to survive 3 hits. The 4th hit will kill me. There's 4 spots where I need to make a dodge. There was one of them and I didn't get it. So I just need 1 to go my way and we'll be fine. Otherwise I can kind of brute force it and just kind of wait for good RNG. But we're trying to kind of do this mine cleanly. See how it treats me. This is one of the bigger time loss points in sort of real attempts. Where are you? Okay. Ah, he got me. These enemies also, these eyeballs, have a property that I call the guard property. A lot of enemies in this game will be like stationary guards that are standing in front of doorways or chests or things like that. And they will auto-hit you on the first time you touch them, regardless of... Oh, that I did not want. Okay, that's not good. That green enemy is not supposed to even be damaging me there. Anyway, the enemies with the auto-hit property will just kind of, as it sounds like, automatically hit me. Okay, good. There's our second dodge, so we should be okay now. Hopefully I can make this chest grab without too much drama. Alright, so we picked up the Silver Harmonica and the Rhoda-Tree Seed, one of which is required for progression, the other of which will give us a very powerful sword. So we make our way over to the Rhoda-Tree and talk to it now that we can understand its language. And we'll get an item that you saw in the last run, I believe, the Silver Sword. One of the lore things in this game that's pretty cool is you get these kind of vague hints from NPCs and stuff that silver is really important. Silver stuff is being stolen, silver is, you know, disappearing and stuff like that. And so we get kind of the first of our silver items, the Silver Sword. I can just forget the armor. But the sword gives us a lot of attack power. This is the level 4 sword, as you saw from that menu layout maybe. And we also combine it with the power ring. We hit like a truck right now. So the whole point of that sequence breaking is to make us pretty like offensively overpowered. And we're going to go back to the first dungeon and just completely waste it. We're going to totally dominate this dungeon. While I'm there, I'm going to do a little grinding. This is a game that your level matters a lot, so you do need to stay on top of the level curve as best you can. One mechanic in this game is that enemies, in addition to having, you know, hit points and so other stats, they also have a level stat that's in the game data. And if ADOL is equal or under that stat, you get full value for the enemy. You get whatever their experience total is worth. But as soon as you over-level them, they start to be diminishing returns. So you get half and then a quarter and so forth down to 1. So enemies on this first floor were out-leveled. And so they're only worth 1 experience. Oh, that guy's worth 2. But this floor, we're considered appropriately leveled for a little while here. So we have a lot of power because of our gear, but we're not really over-leveled as far as the game is concerned. So the monsters here are worth full value, and we get pretty efficient grinding. So we're basically just making our way through here and doing the various collecting. There's a couple of keys. This is a funny dungeon because there's literally 2 boss keys back to back we need. And we're going to get the final silver equipment item, the shield. All the silver gear is fully mandatory in this game. Okay, now we're going to stop. You know, I just realized something. Never mind, I'm fine. I made a pretty serious mistake the first time I got back to derust this game, which is I skipped an item that I need to complete the game. And I was just double checking that I have it there. The Mask of Eyes. So I did see it in my inventory, so we're fine. We're going to stop here and grind on this enemy here. This lion enemy, or whatever you want to call him. And you can see that we're just one-shotting this guy, and he's worth 8. This is pretty good value. Generally, when you're picking out grinding spots in this game, you look for kind of enemy density or controllability. So I want this kind of nice little hallway where this enemy just walks right at me, and I can just spawn him over and over again. Once I hit 880, I'm going to move to another grinding spot. At 900, that enemy becomes underleveled and he's not worth as much, so we want to move on to the next enemy, which is this vampire guy here. He's still worth full value. But something like slightly interesting with the routing and the reroute I just did is we're not actually going to go all the way to 1100 here, because that experience isn't really necessary right now, and I'm going to get kind of a more efficient grinding spot for it in a bit. In particular, I'm going to just kind of get it on the way to something so I don't actually have to slow down. So we're going to stop grinding at a gold threshold here. And move on. No, it is not possible to get into the tower without the mask, because you can't get past that to complete the first dungeon. But it is possible to get that far without the mask, and then you have to go back and get it. So we're super overleveled for that boss. And we get our first book. Shoutouts to TextDev indeed. You should run this version, that boss is free. Okay, so we're doing... this is actually our last trip to the town, crazy as that sounds this early. We're going to do a few different things here. I'm going to go in and buy our final warp wing. We're going to do this cutscene because it's necessary to set some plot flags. We're going to do a couple other things. I'm going to make a shopping trip here, and even though I have the level 4 armor, I'm going to purchase the level 3 armor. We'll see why eventually. And then finally we're going to talk to Lair, or Rhea, as you just saw in Origin, and as she's localized in most other versions. Give her back her harmonica, and then she'll give us the second book. Alright, so now we are prepared to go back into the mine and complete it. And we're coming up on the boss that is, in this version of the game, maybe the hardest boss in the game. You could argue Darm as well, but if you've played Chronicles with the Windows remakes on Steam or whatever, you probably think, oh, the hard boss in this game is Darkfact. Darkfact is pretty infamously hard in that version of it, but this version is a totally different port. It does not have the same balancing properties. Darkfact in this version of the game is actually pretty easy. In fact, in this particular speedrun, he's very easy, because I'm going to go into that fight over-leveled. Where am I going? Oh, that was the right way, wasn't it? Yeah, I just got confused for a second. No, I am totally wrong. Okay, wow, I got myself mixed up on my map movement. I didn't go around the little hump here. There we go. Indeed, it is Vigulian. The hardest boss in the game, which I was about to say, is the one coming up, the Bat Boss. He is very frantic, very fast, has an extremely narrow damage window where you can hit him, and if you don't time it right, he will just completely melt you. This fight is pretty scary, casually. I've seen people playing this game for the first time really struggle on this boss. And here's a fun fact. This new reroute I've done, I fight this boss a level lower than I used to, so he's even harder in this version. So we'll see how it goes. I'm good enough at this fight that I expect to win it. It's not like a dicey 50-50 or something. I probably win it 80-90% of the time. But it is a fight I can lose. There's a non-zero chance he just kills me. It's a somewhat RNG-heavy fight. I can just get bad luck and get kind of destroyed. And in general, it's dangerous. So the interesting thing about it is doing it a level lower doesn't really lose any time. I mean, it kind of probabilistically loses time. At the higher level, which is 2100, he takes 12 hits to kill. Or sorry, he takes 10 hits to kill. At the lower level, he takes 12. But you can hit him for 3 per cycle, so I can do 4 cycles. It is rarely possible, because it's both extremely good timing as well as an RNG thing, to get a 4-hit cycle, but it's not very consistent, so I can't really do that. Okay, I don't think I need to heal, because I'm at the threshold where it'll work out. Alright, and boss doors are an autosave, so if I do die, we'll go right back there. Alright, let me concentrate here. I think this boss is kind of self-explanatory as to why he's challenging. But the thing that's not obvious is the timing on that damage pass has to be incredibly tight, incredibly accurate. Doing 3 damage, or 3 cycles, 3 hits is a 12-frame window. Perfect fight. See, that's a very popular opinion there, least favorite boss. But that's my most favorite boss. Having really practiced the heck out of that fight for speedrunning, I've grown to really love that fight. Unpopular opinion, and maybe it's just Stockholm Syndrome or something. But that fight is super, super good. Like, oh my god. It's so interesting to sort of route and keep him in a safe position and kind of, control his movement with your own. And it's just this interesting chess match. I really enjoy doing that fight. Okay, so we pick up the 3rd book. We go talk to Jeva there to unlock Darm Tower. You're supposed to read the books there. She can translate them, but you don't actually have to read them. You just have to go into the dialogue there. All right, and now at the 24-minute mark or so, I guess. I'm not sure quite where. Darm Tower.
I've heard about your bravery. You're going to Darm Tower to find the book, aren't you? The locals here call it the Tower of Death. You can imagine why. The door only opens from one direction, so none of the gruesome creatures inside can creep out. Once you go in there, you'll never be able to get back out. If you are really as brave as they say you are, then the entrance to the tower is at the back of this house. Good luck.
That particular voice actor is a guy named Thomas Hayden Church, who you might remember from TV's Wings in the 1990s. The show about the little airport. Alright, so we're in the final dungeon of East 1 already. We're going to be here for about another half hour. The final dungeon is longer than the entire rest of the game in this speedrun. The beginning of the dungeon is pretty laid back. I have to collect some items. I'm going to save just because it's a marathon here. Because these guys do auto-hit me, like I mentioned earlier. Actually, I still have my heal potion. I can pick up a replacement heal potion in that chest to the left, but since we didn't use it in the mine, we still have one. To the question in chat, Ys 4 on the PC Engine and the SNES, or Super Famicom, has bump combat as well. Those are both very interesting games. They're very different from each other, because neither of them were designed by Falcom. The Super Famicom one was done by Tonkin House, and the PC Engine one was done by Hudson. Alpha System, who made this version, I believe. Of the two, the PC Engine one is widely considered the stronger game. But even the SNES one is kind of neat. It's interesting. Yeah, the PC Engine one in particular is basically just a love letter to this game. It plays a lot like it. It has a lot of callbacks to it. It's really just a, like, hey, you have nostalgia for Ys 1 and 2 on the TurboGrafx? Play the sequel. That's kind of the vibe of it. Yeah, this is honestly my favorite music track in the whole game. If you're a musically inclined person, you might listen and try to piece out the time signature of this. It's non-standard and changes a lot. Alright, so we're just exploring the tower and kind of climbing up it. As we get to this next floor, some drama is going to start to happen. Okay, so we get captured by that trap and we get thrown in prison.
Hello, I'm Luda Gemma. Not long ago, I was walking through the many corridors of this tower. As I turned a corner, I came across a long hall with many stone statues lining its walls. Suddenly, an old man appeared in front of me. As our eyes met, he panicked and disappeared into the wall. Soon after, I was caught by the goons.
Now we meet Dogi, or as he is weirdly renamed in this version, Colin. For some strange reason, they decided to rename Dogi. Alright, so what happened with that teleport trap is that our silver equipment was all stolen from us. And so we equip our lower level stuff and proceed back up the dungeon here from the bottom. This is why I bought the level 3 armor earlier. We will get the sword and the shield back pretty quickly, but the armor is after 2 bosses as well as the next grind, so it's really good to have a little extra buffer for that. Okay, so bringing the idol here gives us this blue necklace, which is the item that allows us to get past that teleporter trap. We need the Mask of Eyes to get here, and that's what some of the hints were about. We don't turn it off, because it's faster. And I want to make absolutely sure that I have the blue necklace selected, so on that menu I just kind of hesitate and double check. Because it's one of the rare instances in the game where you actually do need to have the item highlighted in your inventory. It's not just a passive. Many of the inventory items are just like, do you own it or not? But this one you do need to have selected. So the next phase of our adventure is reclaiming all of our silver equipment. We're going to find that it's kind of been strewn about the dungeon, and we're going to go try to get it all back. Okay, over here in this guarded corridor is our first of our equipment pieces. Save just in case of a meltdown here. And would you look at that, the first one they give us back is the sword. This is actually really nice of them. Okay, that's fine. Alright, around to the bottom left of this floor is a boss, but at this current level I literally cannot even damage him. So we're going to detour to find a grinding spot and get a bunch of levels. We're going to an extremely efficient grinding location. Also an extremely dangerous one. This is actually a pretty scary split. So we'll see how it goes. This has gotten a little bit safer because I have some kind of newish tech that helps with consistency here. But even with that, it's a bit dicey, so we'll see how it goes. Okay, good. So this is the safety tag. I'm going to grind on these statues for a while. These are worth 16 a pop. We're going to go to 4,100 here. And the strat I'm going to use here is based on maybe a little bit of a glitch or an exploit with the combat system. If you walk down into a wall like that, enemies from the top and the right do not damage you. They just kind of die, as you're seeing here, which is really nice. However, a complication of this is I can't just stand in that spot permanently, because if I do, the rate of grinding is not fast enough. You notice that there's 4 enemies in the room here, but from this location, only 2 of them will actually respawn. To get the other 2 to spawn, I have to go fully south into that little chamber just a tiny bit. So I need to be moving back and forth and kind of causing the respawns. If you watch the top of the screen when I dip into there, you can see the shadows of the enemies respawning. I just kind of wait for them to come to me here, using this exploit. So this is not as safe as it looks, because like when the monsters kind of go into the corner naturally on their own, I really have to improv and do normal combat, because you really can't just dive into the corner while the enemies are already there. I made the analogy the other day. It's like taking a charge in basketball. You have to get into position and get your feet set, otherwise you don't get the call. Similarly here, I want to have my position established before the monster is there. If it's right on my butt, I am not safe. So we're just kind of seesawing back and forth from the door to the corner and trying to improv any movement issues that might come up with the monster locations. And I'm making frequent quick saves using this saving trick I mentioned. What's interesting is I used to do this this room more aggressively, just like get in the middle and mix it up with the enemies. But when I was rerouting, I timed doing it this way, partly out of frustration and partly just kind of out of experimentation, and found that not only is this safer, it's actually faster. To my surprise, I just did several attempts and wrote down the times. Doing it this way comes out to be a little bit faster, both on average and in terms of like the optimal times. And I think the reason is because you stay so low on the screen, you're getting frequent respawns, and the enemies are just very fast to kind of appear, so you don't have to worry as much about kind of exiting out and chasing the respawn points. So that was a really good grind. I didn't even take damage. I guess I used my heal potion, but we're at full health going out, so I don't have to heal. Now we'll backtrack and fight that boss I mentioned. This is pretty straightforward. You just want to bait these sights out. But after the first wave, they get a little random, so you got to be kind of cautious about when you go for damage. You don't really have iframes in this game, so if I get badly positioned, I can go from fully healed to dead in no time flat. So you got to be cautious about that kind of thing. Alright, so we kill Pictomos there, and we pick up the 4th book as well as the hammer. And next we're coming up on something you saw in the East Origin run, if you watched that, which is the Devil's Corridor. There's this room in the dungeon a couple floors up from here, playing spooky music, and if you walk into it while the music is playing, it drains your health super fast and you die. And you can't get all the way through it, because it's too long to get through with the brute force. So we need to find a way around that. And the way around that is to break the pillar that is causing the music to play. I also want to grab some experience to get this final 42 on this map. Excellent. Since we cleared it in advance, we don't actually experience the spooky music, but it would be playing here. And you can actually get as far as this doorway, and there's an NPC in there who'll give you a hint about it, but we don't need to do any of that. Continuing onward in the tower, we are moving on to another boss fight. This is probably the dumbest boss in the game, and maybe in the entire East series. This is Consclard. And you beat Consclard by walking in a circle, but you do have to walk in a circle in a really specific way. So I have a setup for damageless here. Let's see if I get it. With one hit. Okay, Consclard is dead. We get our 5th book. And our next progression item, the brooch. And what the brooch does is allows us to teleport on these mirrors. Make sure I put the armor ring on here. There's various forced damage enemies in this section as well. In addition, there's a very slightly dangerous grab here, so I'm going to make a quick save. That chest over there is our silver armor. And fighting this enemy in this tight room can sometimes be a little trolly. The gimmick of the mirror maze is to walk back into one of the mirrors that it appears you just came from, but you really didn't. Yeah, you're mentioning what we call Scorpion Alley, or the Scorpion Hallway, where there's just a big rush of enemies. Actually, the mirror does not help you in this game on that. It does on the PC version. But in this game, the mirror doesn't prevent enemies from damaging you, so it's no good. I don't even use it there. We will use the mirror for some other things. But not for that, because it doesn't help. Okay, so we're going to pick up the only piece of armor that we get other than the silver gear, the battle shield, for a little extra safety on the aforementioned scorpions, as well as the next final grinding section here. But in the storyline right now, what we're up to is, if we talk to any NPCs, they'll tell us, hey, you gotta do something about, there's this girl that's been kidnapped and she's being held in this area called Rado's Annex. It's this little area sticking off the edge of the tower. You gotta go save the girl. And so we're gonna go look into that. So this is one of the areas where I am going to use the mirror. And if you don't know, what the mirror does is it freezes enemies in place for about a minute. I like to use it here because a lot of these enemies have this auto-hit property, and if you don't use the mirror here, they will beat the crap out of you. You'll take a lot of damage. But just to avoid the time loss on the heal, I like to have the mirror.
Adol, it's me, Lair, the poet. I knew you had the courage to save me, but to be honest with you, I allowed myself to be caught. I didn't know any other way to find you. I have something of great interest for you. You are aware of the books of Ys, but not everyone can read these books. I have a pair of glasses that will allow you to do so. You have shown your courage, and I see you as our only hope. Please, take the glasses. The demon who locked me here is Darkfact. He is plotting to use his evil powers to make this land his own. You must defeat Darkfact if we are to have any chance.
So Lair gives us the glasses which allow us to read the books that we've gotten in the tower, and then she gives us a really explicit hint about the final boss of the game here. So something really interesting about Lair, I was curious in routing. At no point in the game does the game actually require you to read books 4 and 5. Right? You never actually have to read them to trigger any flags or anything like that. And I never read them in the speedrun. So I was curious, do you really need them, or does the game do progression, based on other things? Can I just skip getting the books out of the chests and just get the hammer and the brooch? And so I tried routing that in, and it turns out when you get to Lair, if you come there without either one of the books, she will yell at you, basically. She doesn't give you the voice cutscene. She says, how dare you come before me without the books of Ys? Go back and get them. It's like this really hostile voice line. Or it's not a voice line, it's just a text line, but it's really funny to me. Okay, yeah, I'm afraid off the top of my head I don't remember the actress for Lair, so I don't know the answer to that. But at this point now we have to backtrack a little bit, and we have kind of a boring walking section. So there's a progression item that we absolutely must have. It opens the final boss door, and it's back in the dungeon about 5 floors or so, held by Luda Gemma, a character we met earlier. And there's no way to avoid getting it, and it's not available until after you rescue Lair. So we just have to go back there and deal with the walking. So this is just a bit of a breather. We can listen to the music a bit. I should also mention that previous floor above the mirror maze is the only spot in this game where it matters what direction you walk on the outer hallway areas here. The Rado's Annex is sticking out of one of them, and if you go the wrong way, it'll block your passage. So I always just remember left, up, right, down. So if I'm going up a floor, I go left. If I'm going down a floor, I go right. The way you're supposed to find out this item exists is you read the Book of Gemma, the 5th one that we got, once you get the glasses, and it mentions this blue amulet that sort of dispels the power of evil. Frankly, it's a little bit of a vague hint, and I've seen people get stuck on this and not know to go back here and get to that door and be confused. But that's the idea.
My father has told me of our land's legend. He said that the key to defeating the demons lies in the Books of East. There are many mysteries left to unfold, but the books can be your guide. This is a charm that has been handed down from our ancestors of long ago. Take it with you. It will help you break the evil curse of dark fact.
Okay, and with the blue amulet acquired, we are now basically done. Like, there's still stuff to do, but everything is forward. So we're going to go back up the tower, we're going to do one more grind, and then we're going to fight the last couple bosses. Pretty much it. Yeah, even the characters that only have a couple of voice lines have pretty top tier voice actors in this game. It's crazy how much production value they put into this. Now, Jim Cummings is Dallas. We will not see him until the second game. He gets a lot to do, so Jim Cummings has a lot of lines. Alright, so we're back about to where we were when we started backtracking. And the next obstacle is this scorpion hallway that was mentioned in chat earlier. And we're just going to brute force it. There's no trick here. I just walk through it and hope for the best. It's the reason I picked up the battle shield, because it helps my odds of not dying a lot. But even with the battle shield, if I get really bad RNG, I can take a death here. So we're going to make a quick save and see how it goes. That was not ideal, but we survived. That's a little more damage than usual. I usually have about 50-something hit points left. Would be about average. But that can certainly happen, and I would have 100% died there without the shield. Okay, and then the next floor is our final grinding section of the game, well, of East 1 portion of the game. And I call this the Flame Sword Hallway, for pretty obvious reasons once you see it. Another area where we have a nice set of high-value enemies in a controlled space. So the setup for this is a little dangerous. We're going to use our final guaranteed mirror charge. The mirror starts to have a chance to break after 3, though it's not guaranteed to, so it didn't there. pick up the level 5 sword, and get equipped for the grind. I need to quick save liberally at the start of this because these enemies are pretty deadly, but as I level up I get a lot of stats, so it starts to get dramatically safer. You can see that these are worth 99 per pass, so we have 3 enemies here worth 33 apiece. So basically 100 every time I dip out of the hallway here. A very valuable grinding spot. Something else I should mention that's neat about this game, and I'm pretty sure no other version of the game does this. Oh, that's bad. I'm going to go ahead and take an intentional death here, because I don't want to be on that hit points. That's too dangerous. It's going to be a huge problem. So we set back a little ways, but nothing critical. Get over here. Okay, so anyway, something I should mention is that unlike other versions of the game, your experience carries over from East 1 to East 2. You don't just reset and start over from 0. So the experience that I leave East 1 with will be my starting level of East 2. And because of that, I'm going to overgrind here a decent amount. We're going to try to take basically 2 extra levels into East 2 that I wouldn't take if I was just finishing East 1 at kind of an appropriate level. Another way of saying that is if I'm just running East 1 as its own category, I stop here at about 8,500, and instead I'm going to go to 11,300. This grind, or this extra bit, adds about 2 minutes to the run here, but it saves more like 4.5 in Book 2, so this is well worth doing. At this level, I don't even really need to worry about positioning on these enemies. I can just run right into them, because I'm so overpowered for them that they just die anyway. Once we get to 10,000, these enemies even start to halve in value. You'll notice they're only worth a total of 50 or 49 when I do all 3 of the kills. But even with this is so much more efficient than anything available at the start of the second game that this is well worth doing. I'll leave a little early here because I can get a little experience on the next floor going to the boss. So about 11,250. Gold does not carry over. You lose all your gold. Actually, I don't even need that heal. And like I said, I actually stop at 11,003. I could get that extra 100, but it literally doesn't even matter. So it costs more time to get it than it saves. There we go. Now we're really over-leveled for the final 2 bosses, and they'll be really easy. So there's a quick kill strat for this boss. This works even at lower levels, but it takes a few more hits. Then we just need to make sure we equip the silver gear and go to fight Darkfact.
I know you are searching for the secrets contained within the books, and you have done well so far. I am impressed by your daring ambition, but of course you are still defenseless against my superior powers. The name Dark Fact will be the scourge of all men to come. Oh, you are brave, but you are also a fool. You have no chance without the protection of the silver equipment. Knave, prepare to die!
So Darkfact is fully scripted. He's pretty easy even at lower levels, but in this version with this over-leveling, he is dead in a heartbeat. Reading the book gets me into book 2, and will trigger the kind of in-between cutscene, where we'll get to see some voice acting. This will be Jim Cummings, finally, as well as Alan Oppenheimer, who's Darm. And then a musical interlude and another cutscene. Yeah, he's a million times harder on PC. He's a very different fight on this version.
All communication to Darm Tower has been cut off. What should we do to stop this rogue? His bravery presents an interesting challenge. Let's see how far this Adol character can go before we crush him. Very well then, sir.
Okay, there's a very long unskippable musical scene here. Enjoy the hot jams. I'm going to take just a real quick break, if you'll excuse me for just a second, but I'll be right back. Okay. Yeah, this track is hot fire. This is To Make the End of Battle. Also a strong contender for best East track ever.
Are you all right? Me? I am Lilia from Rants Village. I felt a cold shiver down my spine, and I felt compelled to come in this direction. Then I found you lying here on the ground, your body surrounded by a pure white light. This is the land of Ys. There are many goons patrolling this area. Quickly, let's go to my village before they find us.
So we meet Lilia, who's a major character of Book 2, and she has a big crush on us. And we start out, again, just like Book 1, just walking away from the town and doing some other stuff. So our very first goal at the very beginning of the game here is to meet the village elder, to kind of check in and see what's going on. We have to do some stuff to get him to show up. So we have to do this dialogue. I'm going to also stop and pick up a rhoda-tree nut. I'll mention that East 2 has also seen a pretty significant reroute, and I have some new tricks for it, including a glitch, the first major glitch, I would say, to get into this speedrun, which we'll see at the ice section. Okay, so Lilia's mother gives us some story about Lilia being sick, and importantly, a little bit of starting cash, which lets us buy a few important things right at the outset here. Warp Wing, and some equipment. And our village elder finally shows up when we talk to both Astel and Bernice. And he gives us a big lore dump. East 2 is a lot heavier on story and lore, so there's a lot more of this text and kind of storyline stuff happening. That we need to take the Books of East back to the statues of the priests and kind of turn them in. So that's our initial kind of opening quest here. But we have one other thing to do first. And that is this extremely dumb thing. Alright, so we have this guarded chest here. These rock monsters are just kind of stationary and sitting in front of this chest. This is a mandatory item to complete the game. So we need to do this at some point. And there's no time like the present. If we get it at the start, we can one-shot the next dungeon and not have to do any backtracking. So we do it here. But as you can see, this is kind of slow, right? We got to chop these guys down like a big oak tree, healing back up as we hit them. This thing, this whole segment, is the entire reason for all the extra grinding. This one thing, having these extra levels, saves so much time here. It's like incredible. So we just have to do this. I have looked for a way to kind of glitch behind these guys, and I have not found it. It may still exist, but that'd be one of the holy grail things for this game. Alright, the second one I want to be a little more cautious about. Okay, good. The way he bounces me off is RNG from run to run, so I want a good bounce direction here to make sure I don't get kind of doubled. And yeah, this is just slow, but hey. You only have to do it once. Yeah, I've tried glitching past it when there's only one remaining. It doesn't seem to help. You can't ever really bounce up, is the problem, and you know, you can't get the chest from the side either, so it doesn't really work. You do have to actually grab the chest. I almost just walked away. All right. So the Wand of Holy World, we take it back up here, touch it to the goddess statue. And we are bestowed with magic points. So one of the big game mechanic changes of East 2 over East 1 is you have a magic system now, and offensive magic. We'll be getting a fireball spell pretty soon, and it very radically changes the gameplay. I wouldn't normally safety save there, but marathon. Chances of these monsters killing me is practically nil, but... Alright, and so, like I mentioned, we're now in the kind of the combination divine area and mine. There's two sort of dungeons kind of interleaved together here. And we have to take these books to all of these priest statues. And they'll all give us a lore dump and tell us some things about what's going on in East and what the conflict is and yada yada yada. So we learn that there's an evil core in Solomon's Shrine, and we need to get there and fight the source of the dark magic and all this stuff. And so this particular text box about the bigger demons, he means boss fights. So boss fights in this game, until the very end game, you fight with magic instead of with melee. So the boss designs are a lot different from East 1 in terms of the way they work. One of my slight annoyances with this section is these text boxes are lengthy, of course, but this one, the very first one, Ate All Stares in Amazement, you see this one 6 times, and it's like, come on, could we save the minute that it would it would save if this wasn't there? Or if I only stared in amazement the first time and then I figured it out. Like, I always laugh at that when I run this. The mine layout can be a little tricky, but there's a very easy way to remember where to go, which is in any of those rooms that have 3 sort of completely neutral-looking doors, and you come out of the middle one. Go to the right. Go to the right first. And then you have to memorize some other lesser stuff, but it's pretty easy. So a room like this with 3 totally nondescript doors. Take the right one first, and then just know where to go. You still have to learn some stuff, but... Alright, we rescue Dr. Flair, who was mentioned by Bernice earlier for the letter for the medicine. And he's going to give us the recipe for the medicine. Yes, this game does have CD audio. Most of the music in the game is Red Book audio, as is some of the voice acting. Some of it is stored in data as well, because they didn't have enough space, but the majority of it is all CD. Alright, so we get now a little experience, and we get the recipe for the medicine. We continue on to the next next shrine statue. Yeah, we have MP just because the storyline has given us access to magic. So you get this magic wand and it makes you magical. And this statue tells us that the good side and the bad side of the magic are both kind of the same thing, and yada yada yada. Alright, a little more dungeon left. I'm going to make a save here. Again, marathon, I wouldn't normally do that, but there's a couple narrow hallways on our next walk, so I just want to make sure I don't get totally bodied somehow. Now we pick up our first magic spell. So we find magic by virtue of these items that we pick up throughout the game. The first and really the most important of which, I'm glad I saved, wow, is the magic of fire. No, equipment does not carry over. We start this game naked as the day we were born. Or where this guy's checkpoint is. I'm more than a little concerned here. Okay, we'll manage. Now, once I get to the next statue, we'll get a full heal, so we'll be fine. But just gotta not die in the meantime. Okay, no problem, no problem. Never a moment's doubt. Adol's a really interesting protagonist to me for various games, because if you were to like put him in a character class, he's just a fighter, right? He just has a sword and he runs and hits things. But he like gets magic from plot events in a lot of the games. Like, oh, you picked up the thing and now you can do magic. Or, you know, he always has some game-specific item or whatever that kind of activates his advanced abilities. But his basic build is just sword and shield, you know? I find that kind of an interesting way to go. Alright, that's 5 books down, so we only get to be amazed one more time. But that's still a little ways off. We've got more to do. Or that. The very next thing actually is a boss fight. And this boss is completely free, because I'm going to glitch him out a little bit. Or really more AI manip him, I guess would be more accurate. But if I go over to the right wall and just kind of stand here, this boss will just stick and not do anything, and we can just crush him down. So now this is the final area of the mine. We're just about done with this dungeon. We're going to pick up 4 different items in this area. This one is optional, but we're going to get some money for it as well as access to higher level armor. So it's worth grabbing. Second item is the Cresseta flower, which is part of the medicine for Lilia. I want to be careful going through this next part because there's some blind entryways here. You just have enemies kind of unable to see where they are until I get them. Oh, that's not ideal. Evil Bell will be used in a little bit to get to the 6th statue. Oh, good. So one of the little quirks of this engine is when you are picking up a chest and getting the item fanfare like that, the enemies actually start moving a little bit before I do. So I would take damage there. Run. But he luckily moved down and didn't hit me. Oh, whoops. That's the item, or the animation for the Matic. Okay, I'm in kind of some danger here just because of the way I spawned there. Did you get away? Okay, that was a little unclean, but we'll be alright. 4th item is the Magic of Light, which is actually what you're supposed to get to find some of those other things, because you can see light coming through the walls I walked through. But we do need it for one other thing later, so I'm going to get it now. Okay. That was a little dicey at the end there, but we come back to town with our medicine. And we take it to Lilia's mother. So this is mandatory, but I think even if it weren't, we would still do it, because the reward we get for this is another magic spell, and in this case we get warp magic. So we get a magic that lets us fast travel to the various towns and stuff that we'll encounter during the game.
I'm sorry, but I overheard you talking to Bernice. I was about to die of a disease I knew nothing about. But you risked your life to get the medicine that I so desperately needed. I owe my life to you. How can I ever thank you?
Okay, next up is another grinding spot. And this one's very silly. Very silly indeed. I don't really need full health for this, but I'm going to get a little bit just for some safety here. Okay, so this guy tells us there's some weird noises coming from his basement. And the way we're going to figure out how to deal with that is we're going to use the Evil Bell, which is used to summon the monsters. And we're going to ring it, and they're going to come crashing through the wall. And then we're going to stand here and shoot fireballs at them for a little while. Yeah, it's definitely not the very first. There's some other PC Engine CD games that predate this, like Tengai Makia Zaraya, I believe has voice acting in his earlier. But, and probably some others, but it is one of the very first, yeah. So this grinding spot, as you can tell, free, a little silly, but extremely efficient, right? You can't turn down a grind spot like this. So we're going to stand here for a bit. We're going to take this to 25,000. And we're also along the way going to get enough gold, excuse me, to get all of the 3rd level gear. Yeah, that's a good point. There are some arcade games from like very early, like 1980, 81, something like that, that had voice samples. Like Wizard of War and things like that. I don't know the answer to what the very first one is. Yeah, those Laserdisc games were also like really advanced for their era. They didn't have great gameplay, but they were incredibly good looking and cool. As we level up further here, we're starting to get much less value per, enemy. But nevertheless, this is still very efficient. So there's some thunder and lightning outside. Hopefully there won't be any issues. Yeah, these are never ending, unlike the PC version where there's a fixed number. These just go forever. You can stay here and grind your max gold or whatever you want to do. Okay, once I hit 25,000 and 20,000, we're going to go. And our final amazement. Good question on max gold. Max experience is 99,999. I think that's also true of the gold, but it might stop at 65,535. I don't remember. Alright, so the final statue tells us about the magical mineral Cleria, which is like the magical metal of Ys, and that's going to play a major role in the story as well. Okay, so with all that done, he finally opens the door to the next zone. So we're going to go back to town, and we're ready to progress. I got one more shopping trip to do. Yeah, I believe the gold stops at 65.5, but I'm not 100% sure of it, to be honest. It's never relevant in the late game, so it's not really something that's on my mind very much. Okay, so now we're done with Rants Village and the mine. We're moving on to the second zone of Ys 2, the Ice Ridge of Noltia. Or it's just called Ice Park in this game if you like save there. This area is, I'm very excited to show this off. There is a glitch I'm going to do here. It's a little finicky because it depends on enemy RNG and their behavior, but it's a major skip if I can nail it quickly. It'll save a lot of time. So this is really cool. This is like brand new to the speedrun. First attempt it actually had this was Wednesday of this last week, so I just put this in. Okay, I'm going to make a quick save just in case we get totally screwed up here and I can take a death and restart. But I want to lure this enemy to the left a little bit. And hopefully he'll cooperate. Yeah, perfect. That went really smoothly. Okay. So as you might guess, we're not supposed to be walking up those slopes, these icy slopes. You need an item to get up those slopes called the Stone Shoes, which is found much later in this dungeon. But by doing that damage boost, I can skip up them and get the illusion mirror, which is the key item for the zone, right away without having to do any of the rest of the zone. Just get it right at the start. So we do that. And it just totally breaks the logic of this area completely in half. Yeah, I'm pleased with how smoothly that went. That enemy can be really trolly, because the enemy behavior is if they're line of sight to you, they'll path at you, but if they're not, they just move randomly and do what they want. And I have to get him to turn a corner there and kind of move around in the right way, and he can just be really obnoxious. But that went really well. Okay, we stop and pick up the cape there to heal. We'll be using that on grinding sections primarily, but it's nice to have it there as well after I've taken some damage from that boost. And now we're basically ready to just finish off this area. I'm going the wrong way. Alright, so we just pick up a bunch of either mandatory or very useful items here, and we're going to do one more of these damage boosts. Again, I'll safety save just in case. Now I want to heal all the way to full. Actually, I can stop at 171. We'll open the door here. Normally we'd go up those middle stairs all the way up to the stone shoes, warp back to town, come back at the front end from, or to the dungeon from the front, etc., etc. Okay, quick kill strat here, if I can nail it. This is a pretty specific positioning and timing. Perfect. Really, really good ice ridge. That was probably would have been a gold split if I had splits. That was amazing. Okay, next up is yet another grind. We have one right away here. So this one's really dangerous. Alright, so these are the Ruse. We saw these in Origin. They're supposed to be the nice, helpful, holy demons of Ys. But in this game, they're vulnerable to being hit. And so we're going to kill a bunch of them, because there's a lot of them in this room in a high-density formation. So we don't really care about any sentimentality here. They're worth 60 experience, and they're in a big, big linear room where I can combo them to death. Now, I got to be a little careful, because these guys are really nasty. Like, they're actually very deadly. So you see I'm going to use a mix of fireballs and bump combat, kind of depending on my health situation. Bump combat is faster, but these enemies are really weird in how they move off of you, because they're considered like much higher level than me, so they bounce off me weirdly. And when I'm low on HP, I want to just kind of stand still and shoot fireballs at them. So we're going to get all the way up to 39,000 here on these enemies. Though I will say, once we get to 33, something is going to happen that's going to make this grind go a lot better. But I'll save the suspense on that until we get there. But I basically just want to combat these guys and try not to die too much. Quick saving when I can. Oof, okay. Health, please. Alright, like I said, this area is pretty deadly. Oh, okay. And if you talk to these guys in monster form, which we haven't actually seen yet, but that spell I picked up allows me to transform into one of these monsters, this very monster sprite. And the other monsters will think I'm a monster and you can have conversations with them, which is used as kind of a hint system, progression system, things like that. These guys give you like all sorts of useful hints. They tell you what to do in this area, where to go, etc. Interestingly, when I played this as a kid, or teenager, I guess, I never found this. There's a little hint when you walk into the room that there's something here, but I never put two and two together that I needed to use the evil bell, and I just kind of figured stuff out by brute force. But if you actually do figure out the hint here, these guys basically spoil the whole zone for you, tell you all the hints and what to do, and how to not die to the trap coming up, and things like that. Why did I play the game on TurboGrafx? Because I had it as a kid. This was actually the pack-in game, or one of the pack-in games, with the Turbo Duo, the combo CD and card attachment system, and that's where I got the game. Okay, so this is the thing I mentioned in terms of an upgrade. So once we hit this level, our fireball gets powered up. Instead of hitting the monsters once and dissipating, now it has this kind of persistent lifespan where it drags enemies behind it. And that makes this really easy and comfy. Now we just kind of go back and forth and shoot the fireball, and it just kind of pulls the enemies until they're dead. And so all the risk here goes away, and we can just get the rest of our experience without a lot of drama. I'm still going to safety save because marathon. But yeah, we're just Hadoukening these guys to death. This is like Ryu's super fireball, you know, the super turbo one. Goes right through him and hits multiple times. So we're going to get one more level here. After 39,000, these start to diminish in value. Otherwise, we'd stay here longer. So we haven't even really begun to see how savage this fireball is. Wait till we get to the next screen. Okay, we pick up this item because this is needed. This is one of the things that those rules will tell us about. And now I'm going to put on another accessory called the Hawk Idol. The Hawk Idol is a homing shot. Combined with the fireball power-up, we just kind of combo these enemies away from just one shot. I don't like to do this on grinds because I like to have straight lines I can control. But when we're just walking around going from place to place, you can just hit the button and enemies just die. This is really good for just picking up some stray experience as we're walking around. Okay, so we get to our second town, Burn Land or Burn Village, depending on what version of the game you're playing. And the drama here is that the bridge is broken and the gate guard will tell us that we can't cross. If we talk to him as a monster, however, he'll tell us the real deal, which is that his son has been kidnapped by the monsters. And they've ransomed him for not allowing us to cross the bridge. So we trick him into telling us that, talk to him as Adol, and we get a confession. And he'll tell us what's going on. Alright, so the bridge guard gives us the whisper earrings, which allow us to hear very quiet sounds, which are needed as part of this rescue quest. And we just want to make our way kind of to the other area, other side of the Burnland area, to rescue his son Tarf. That is our next mission. We'll get 1,500 experience from quest experience for that, so I want to get another 1,500 to get to 42,000 from the walking around enemies here. So I'm just keeping an eye on that as we go. This room we need to make sure to equip the Rhoda-Tree Leaf, which protects us from the poisonous fumes of that room, which will kill us. And then back to fireballing. Interestingly, these fire enemies can still be fireballed, so that's fun. Except for this one. I know, right? That homing shot is crazed. It's so strong. And it's really convenient because it just lets you pick up a little free experience without really any effort as you walk around. I basically get 2 levels like that. No, it's not instant death. It's just very fast HP drain. You can get out of the room if you turn around instantly.
Someone out there? My name is Tarf. I am the son of the bridge guard. I truly hope that you can save me, but I'm afraid this rock is very solid and will be most difficult to break.
Yeah, it does drain really fast, so I think you could probably brute force through it, but it would be tight. We happen to have the blue orb, so we turn it right back in, and this will free Tarf. We do not have to escort Tarf home like the Chronicles version does, which is good. Keith is with him. Okay, I need 1 more kill as I walk to the boss, but we're fine on experience. Okay, Fireball, Hawk Idol. Alright, we're coming up on a boss fight that can be a little finicky. At least when I'm going for quick kills. It's not too hard casually, but the quick kill I want to get requires kind of getting in his face and putting myself at some real risk of taking giant damage. So we'll see how it goes. I don't like that damage. I'm gonna have to heal up, actually. Okay, so this guy's cycle-based. He's going to spit out this worm tongue thing, and he's only vulnerable when his mouth is open. I want to put a lot of damage on him, even at some cost to myself there, on the first phase. And then hopefully get a bunch of damage on his re-entry without taking damage. And then try to kill him on his second mouth opening. Perfect. It's a little trickier than it looks, because it's kind of like musical chairs. Like, the timing of when he opens is random, so I never quite know when it's going to happen. And if I'm out of position, that fight can get really ugly. But that was pretty clean. Vomits excitedly. Yeah, the line from the typing game on that guy. Okay, this is the final town, Rhythmsong Village. And we're coming up on the final dungeon.
I am Decca. I know exactly who you are. You have a great reputation which precedes you, Adol. I had a strange dream last night. You were in that dream, Adol. There was also a charming young girl who spoke of you and said that I must help you. How marvelous that you're here now.
Okay, so we get a little bit of gatekeeping from the gatekeeper. He tells us to go talk to Hadot. This is all just to give you an item, basically. So he gives us the Voca shell, or Lila shell as it's called in other versions, which is just a hint item. We don't really need it, but the game makes us pick it up. But if you're ever lost and not sure where to go, this game is actually really good about having like several different in-game hinting systems. There's this, there's the guidance scroll that we saw earlier, and then there's the monster dialogues to tell you where to go as well. So you can usually figure out where to go next if you're sort of lost. Alright, so now we're going to turn into a monster and kind of bluff our way into the shrine here. Solomon's Shrine, the final dungeon. A very, very long dungeon. Okay, and just like we were doing in Burnland, I want to be getting experience from the fireball as I walk around. We want to be at 47,000 before I'm done with kind of the first set of plot stuff here. We've got a little ways because there's quite a bit to do before the first boss, but... yes, you did. That is pretty much the Metroid item fanfare. For a long time, people thought it was just a coincidence because those games came out really close to each other. The first East One and Metroid. But at some point, Yuzo Koshiro, the composer, admitted in like liner notes to some CD that, yeah, he just kind of stole it. He thought it sounded good. And so he did something based on it. Okay, so in Solomon's Shrine, we got told that we need to go meet with Mr. Yetai, the head of all the demons. But to get to him, we need to first get a pass to get past one of the locked gates. And to do that, we need to turn into the monster again and bluff our way past another bureaucrat in this area. The monsters have a lot of bureaucracy. It's really one of the funny things about the dialogues here. They're having a meeting in the North Conference Room. Presumably there's also a South Conference Room. And, you know, they're engaged in some high-level discussions of policy. So now with that pass, we can find our way to the area where the meeting is being held. And for this, we need to have two things equipped. We need to both have the Whisper Earrings and the Transform Magic, so that we can both hear and understand this conversation. And they're going to tell us a lot of important information. That there's some villagers that have been captured but have escaped, and that they have a key that we really want. They're also going to give us a password to get into the western side of the shrine. Okay, so once we get that password, we're good to go back to town and come in from the front again. So we do so. Now we do basically the same thing in the other direction. Walk Eidolon. Guy's too low. There we go. Yeah, I assume there's some sort of programmer in-joke with the password. Alright, now is our first introduction to the wizard Dallas, one of our main antagonists of this game. And he warns us to go away. We ignore him, and now he's going to curse us into a demon. And I want you all to really appreciate this sprite while we have it, because this doesn't last long in the game. But look at this thing. Look at this thing. Look at it. Spaghetti arms, crazy red hair. Oh, I love this sprite so much. It makes me so happy. Alright, we put the light magic on to make this chest visible. It's the only thing it's actually required for in the whole game. Now we can go back and fix our curse. So good. That sprite amazes me. I love it. Okay, with that taken care of, now we're going to go back to the sewer area where Dallas was guarding and make contact with these escaped villagers. That's the whole point of that. They won't talk to us if we're a monster, because they don't trust us. So we have to clear the curse first. If you talk to the NPCs in town while you're a monster, they will give you a different dialogue. Same is true for the transform spell. I do want to kill these enemies because they're worth a lot, and I do need this level. Okay, good. So this is the runaway hideout. There's a very important dodge here. I do not want to talk to that NPC right in front of the door, because he talks forever.
Is that really you, Adolf? I never thought I'd see you again. Do you recognize me? I am Lilia from Rants Village. Not long ago, I was caught by some demons as they were rounding up people in our village. Soon after this, a demon named Keith came and saved me. He gave me this key. He told me that I would be able to open many locked doors with it.
Yeah, Lily is here for some reason. He just wanders around like a moron in this game.
You are a most helpful soul, aren't you, Adol? You have led me to the hideout of these rambunctious runaways. These people have learned all too much about this forsaken land, so of course I cannot permit them to live. However, I do have a rather big heart, and I am going to let you watch as I turn their bodies and souls to ice-cold stone.
Yeah, that's a really good evil villain speech. Don't worry, they're fine. Alright, so critically we get the key there. We also turned everyone into stone by accident, but that's okay, we'll deal with that later. And now we have one more thing to do, one more walking trip, on which I need to make sure I get my level thresholds, because this is the last thing before the boss fight. So I need to get 300 more gold and 300 more experience, roughly, as we go get the final item here. Yeah, the voice acting, it's all legit professionals. They didn't cheap out on this at all. They know what they're doing. Okay, we're pretty good on gold here. There we go, both thresholds, all right. So, with the key, we can now get into this northeast door. We're going to pick up one item here, and then we're going to go back and fight a boss. Yeah, I said it earlier, but for anybody that's just arrived, this game came out in 1989 in Japan and 1990 in the United States. This game is so colossally ahead of its time, it's just amazing. Alright, so we buy the level 4 sword. Now we're going to fight a boss. I have kind of a new strat for this. It's not radically different, but it's just kind of a little more consistent approach to this. So I'm going to just buffer my fireball here, because this gets the nice timing on the first hit, and then I can 3-cycle this guy usually. Although I took too much damage there because I got pinned to the side wrong. We might have to do this the safe way. Fine. Yeah, and bear in mind that those years, that's still pre-Super Nintendo, Super Famicom. So they really were, you know, going all in on like trying to compete for the market at that time before Nintendo had, you know, their next generation system out. It didn't work out, I guess, but it was a valiant effort. How do you restore your MP? Mostly in the run, I do it from boss fight refills like that. There are some items you can get that do it. The Rototree nut that we used earlier for the potion is one. And you can also do it at a couple spots in the game, so Bernice's house and so forth. There's a few places to do it. Alright, next up in the run, we're heading to kind of the back half of the shrine. So the silver pendant is what allowed us to teleport on that statue into the next area. And we're going to go through here. If we talk to the monsters or get hints in this area, we'll figure out that the monsters are all trying to track down the traitor Keith, this other demon that we've seen mentioned a few times. And so we're trying to make contact with Keith in the storyline. That's where we're headed now. I'm going to stop and pick up level 5 equipment. Well, some of it, as we'll see. As we walk to where the monsters have Keith trapped. Yeah, this walk is like mega confusing, so I actually need to concentrate on remembering all the exits here. These canal areas are incredibly maze-like and difficult. This was actually one of the biggest things I had to derust when I was getting ready for doing runs again. These stupid walking sections. Okay, here we go.
I am Keith. I heard your voice when I was locked in the lava prison. I was spotted by a guard and chased, so I decided the safest thing to do was to hang out here until the coast was clear. If you want to get to the inner courtyard of the palace, then you must go through this water canal. I have the key to the water control room. Close the water gates and dam the canal. Then you can make your way up to the inner courtyard.
There's a very long delay just on the audio track that voice acting is from, so that's always happens there. That long delay. Okay, so Keith gives us the key to the water control room, which is going to allow us to drop the water level and get access to some new areas via the bottom of this canal zone. We're going to walk there and do that and get some other stuff. We're coming up very quickly, though, on the final grinding section of the run, and I want to talk about it a little bit before I get there, because it's mega dangerous and I'm going to need to concentrate once I'm into it. So we're going to go to an area past this called the Goddess Castle, and there's this bridge that has a lot of high-value, high-danger enemies on it going back and forth. It's this nice controlled narrow zone, just like the Rue area I was in earlier. And what I want to do is to set up where I can kind of shoot my fireball left and right and kill them. Wrong way. The complication, first of all, is that they're immune to fireballs, which that seems like it'd be a problem. But the immunity to fireballs is kind of glitched, and all you have to do to clear it is hit them with a melee attack once. So if you touch them with a melee attack, the immunity to fireballs drops off. Probably a glitch. I'm not really sure. And it doesn't even return when they die and respawn. So once I do it once, they will permanently be damageable. So I want to basically tag every enemy with that, and then get them set up. Even once it's set up, the enemies move at the exact same speed as Adol, and they like to come at me from behind and like chase me from the back while I'm trying to kill the enemies on the other side. And so even once it's kind of set up and stable, it's still pretty dangerous, and I have to be pretty cautious about my movement so that I don't get killed. So it's not relaxing even once I'm into it. And then the third complication is that this area is really taxing the sprite limit of the system, and so the enemies are going to be flickering or outright invisible at times. So that's fun. A final twist is I'm actually doing something here that's brand new to the route as well, which is I'm not picking up the level 5 sword. It's over to the west of this room, but it's a long detour to get it. It's not worth having. It does not save enough time to get. So we're going to do this with a level 4 sword. It makes it even more dangerous. Quick save. So what I'm trying to do is melee these enemies and kind of bring them into this hallway and just hit them once is all I need to do. Oh, I didn't put magic on. I didn't menu correctly. So that's part of the problem. Let me fix that. Fire magic. Okay, I do have the cape on. Try that again. Tag, tag, tag. Tag the next one. Tag him. Okay, we got 5 of the 6 enemies tagged. There's one more wizard. That can sometimes come down. We'll see if I can deal with him. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Now, if the enemies get too close to me from behind, I want to use the bump combat melee, because it's actually going to be safer than the alternative. Okay, we're semi-set up here. As you can see, this is still not like super duper safe, because these enemies get pretty close to me. I have to make these fast turnarounds. And I can't really see them. That's not the stream. That's just the game. I'm not going to be looking at chat for any of this either, by the way, so save your questions until the end. But in terms of setup, I took off the homing missile idol, and I put on the healing item, because I want these fireballs to be straight line predictable and not do anything I don't expect, and it's nice to get the passive healing while I am turning around. So we kind of top off as we kind of do the back and forth here. Alright, so this is fairly stable. Once I get to about 65,000, the enemies start to die faster, and they die fast enough that I start to feel safe here. Although this is never fully safe. I'm going to make a quick save, even at great risk to myself there. Okay. I should have done that earlier, but I saw I was in like danger there, so I wanted to get it in case I died. Okay, so we're going to go to 78,800 here. Pretty arbitrary number, but it's just based on working backwards from all the remaining experience after this point in the game to get me to where I want for the final boss. Alright, so we're in pretty good shape now. It would be a big upset if this fell apart, although it's not impossible still. As a kid, I used this area to grind, but I just stood on the top of the stairs, because the enemies actually have a spot they won't go past, and you can just hold down the button and you just get experience. But that's slow. We want to do this the fast way, which means throwing ourselves into danger. Oh my god, okay. Wow, yeah, see, that's what I mean. If this goes poorly, it goes really poorly. So I got to reset this up. Fortunately, we're a lot higher level, so it'll be a lot safer. Oh my god, okay. Sheesh. Yeah, there's a lot of fast enemies here. They are brutal. If they get into your kitchen, you can just get comboed to death real fast. So we lost a little progress there. Nothing huge. Yeah, this is a lot harder than it looks. It seems like, oh, you just shoot left and right, but this is pretty silly. This section's tough. And you can kind of see why I routed out the level 5 sword, as crazy as it sounds to skip a sword in an East game. It kills these enemies in one hit faster. Like, who cares, right? Like, they're already taking like 10 hits to kill, and it's like instantaneous damage, so it doesn't make any real difference. Alright, we're just about done. I'm going to leave a little before my target number, because what we're going to do at the end of this is walk left into the Goddess Castle, just to get it as a checkpoint, and then come back around to the upper right of this screen for a boss fight. So I'll get a little extra experience walking there, maybe 100 or so, so we'll just leave a little buffer. Although I ended up getting it anyway. No problem. Oh boy, okay, wow. Well, that's over and done with. That is so hard. Alright. Off we go to fight Mr. Yetai, or Zava, as she is known in other versions. Actually, it does have the time stop magic, it's just not worth getting. We don't have any use for it. This fight is interesting. I like this fight a lot. You kill these birds. The initial ones are on a fixed pattern, and then they start being shot out at random angles, so it becomes improv after a while. So I have kind of a start set up, and then I just kind of fight it, you know, by feel. The level 4 sword causes these to take 1 extra hit to kill, so 6 hits instead of 5. But it doesn't really make a lot of difference on the timing of the fight, actually. It's about 40 to 45 seconds either way. I'm not doing great here. This has been a little awkward. Whoops, I shot the wrong way there and it messed me up. That's fine though. That was a touch on the slow side, but nothing too bad. Okay, with Zava down, our next story thing, we actually have a big chunk of story coming up. We're going to the Belfry, where the monsters are preparing to make a sacrifice. They have one of the villagers, and they're going to ring the bells 5 times, and then the girl is going to die. So we're trying to beat the clock here.
Get out of here now, or you will perish like the others.
That's Maria. We can't get past that barrier. But maybe we can beat the clock here. This is actually a cool segment. There's no enemies in this whole tower. And it's just this like suspenseful walk. You just kind of walk up the tower with the suspense building from the bells ringing and the story and everything. And it's just like this nice little story experience. I really like this segment. Uh-oh, 3 bells. Better hurry.
Such a brave warrior you are, Edol. I am truly impressed that you've made it to this lofty point. I commend your efforts. However, you'll be distressed to hear that I've already rung the death bell 4 times. If I ring it once more, the girl Maria will die. Let me explain the meaning of this ancient ritual. The ancestral priests of this land lived over 700 years ago, but their descendants still reside in East today. The 5 bells are the ceremonial warning. Before I shatter their souls and drain the last of their life's blood. I do love this. Now please, enjoy the sweet sound of the bell's last ring.
That's a really well done sequence. Also, don't worry, Maria's fine. It's the wrong way. Because you have to backtrack down the tower on foot to pick up an item. You might have noticed I went by one room here. This was blocked off with a barrier beforehand, but once we get that, we can get here. And then once we pick up the Dreaming Stone Idol, now we have to go back to the Goddess Castle. Okay, so we're actually very rapidly approaching endgame. So the Dreaming Stone Idol is going to be an item that allows us to cure the people that have been turned to stone. But apparently it's broken. Alright, so we need the blue orb, which we gave to the kid Tarf, right? And he's actually moved into Rhythmsong Village, which we might have known about from a hint earlier. And so surely he has the blue orb. No, he doesn't. He's an idiot. So Tarf is no help. So there's some other hints you can get to find a location of it, but Tarf is the only one that's mandatory to actually set the item to appear where it needs to be. So we talked to Tarf, and now we're going to go back to the room where the meeting was taking place, the North Conference Room. And that's where the blue orb will be, because the monsters were discussing it at their meeting. And apparently nobody took it with them, they just left it there. But there you go. Didn't mean to hit the button there. Alright, we get the blue orb, we take it back to the goddesses, and they'll fix the Dreaming Stone Idol for us. Okay, so we're getting real close to the ending. All the descendants are heading to the core. Supposed to go there too. If we'd come in here earlier, like when I went into doing the grinding section and came here at that point, the dialogue the goddesses would have given us, which isn't needed to progress, but would have given us a hint, is the people that have been turned to stone have the item that is necessary to get to the core. So we would know that if we had paid attention to all the hints. So that's why we're doing this, other than the fact that we're a good person and all that. How much time is left? Probably about 10 to 12 minutes, I think. I'm not actually sure. It'll be underestimate. The very, very last area has like 6 minutes of cutscenes. I don't remember how much this stuff takes off, though. Yeah, it might be more like 15. Something in that ballpark. Alright, so we lift the Dreaming Stone statue to the sky. Everyone is healed. We get a little experience. And now we have to do some pickups. So all the people that have been turned to stone have goodies for us. The first one is this guy that we tried to avoid earlier. And then the second person we want to talk to, we haven't actually seen yet, but he was mentioned, if you were reading the text, by Hadat, the guy's kid that was in the shrine looking for his girlfriend. So he's hidden in the canal somewhere. We're going to backtrack through there to get to him. Yeah, we're not going to finish at max level. We're going to be too short. I'm going to get one more from a boss fight in a bit. But we'll finish at 90,000. Max level is 99,999. Yeah, it is 255, but you still gain more stats as you go up from here. This is the TurboGrafx CD. Okay, so we meet Sada. We tell him, unfortunately, that we couldn't save his girlfriend. And crucially, he's going to give us the best sword in the game. He also gives us a real strong lead on the best armor in the game. We don't actually get to clear a shield until much later. This always flummoxed me as a kid when I first played this, because I was like, I feel like I missed something. Where's the stupid shield? Shouldn't I have the shield before I go into the finale? Like, where's the shield? But you do get it down the line here. All right. And with that, we are ready to go to the Core of Ys. Which I don't need the fire magic on particularly. Just need it to be not transform. That's the gimmick of East 1, Matthias. East 2, you just get the best stuff. In East 1, the silver gear is level 4, and you get the higher level gear level 5. Alright, now we're going to fight the wizard Dallas. He's a bit of a chump at this level. So my level is based on the final boss. I'm actually a little over-leveled for Dallas, so he's going to go down pretty easy. And as he mentions there, we don't use magic on him, we melee him just like East 1. So back to bump combat for the final 2 bosses. Oh yeah, there's plenty of hints about the silver thing. And in fact, we'll put a nice bow on that when we get to the ending cutscenes here. Why is silver so significant? There's a reveal on that I thought was like the coolest thing when I was 14. It was like, oh, it's so well done. It's a really tight bit of scripting, I think. Okay, now we're in the East Core. We have all of our different descendants. They all have voice-acted lines here, but we don't need to touch any of them, really. A lot of these are kind of hard to hear, including the only one that we actually do have to take. So I apologize if you have a hard time hearing the voice line coming up in a second. These data are not stored on the CD-ROM Red Book. They're in the game data. They're compressed, so they're not as high quality. Yeah, I was wrong about the time earlier. It'll probably be about 8 or 9 minutes from this point, if you're still caring about that. Okay, so Lilia basically tells us that she's been wandering around like an idiot. We get the goddess ring from her.
The goddesses are in a hopeless situation. There is no way that you can defeat me now. A fight without the power of the goddesses doesn't scare me. 700 years ago, I almost had the whole country of Ys under my control. But those forsaken goddesses managed to lock me up. I have suffered 10,000 years of humiliation, and I will remember every minute of it when I revenge my anguish. Now, my time has finally come. The world of Ys will soon be mine, and I will show them all just how wicked we demons can be.
You animal! You know well that I cannot let you do that. Ys is now back where it belongs. Don't you forget about me. I am the bandit, Goban.
Ys 1 characters, we're back on the ground. In fact, I'm not on world record pace, so I'm going to show off something cool once this is done.
I owe you more than you can ever imagine. I am Lair, the goddess of Ys. Through your courageous battle, you have defeated Dark Fact in Darm Tower, Dark Fact was the direct descendant of Priest Fact. He tried to use the magical power of Claria to release the demons, which have been sealed up for hundreds of years. He wanted to control the entire land, but greed has its limitations, and you caused the demise of that demon. When we sealed the demons in, we also buried the magical mineral Claria deep within the ground. Several hundreds of years have passed, and Claria has since been excavated as silver. You know the rest of the story. But now you must fight your final battle against Darm, the most sinister of all evils. I know that you are a most worthy warrior, and I want you to use my ring for this dangerous showdown. The ring can weaken the power of evil, and my blessing can give your sword the force of Ys. Courage to the end, dear Adolf.
Yeah, I thought that Claria Silver thing was like so cool. It's like, oh, that makes so much sense. Oh, I loved that as a kid.
Oh, Adolf, how I have longed to see you. Remember me? I am Fina. When we last met, I didn't reveal my true identity. But now I must tell you that I am one of the two goddesses of Ys. You have been superb in your conquest to suppress the demons, but they will revive themselves unless you put an end to their source of evil. Their power comes from the enormous black pearl in the rear room. If you can shatter the pearl, then they will lose their evil flame, and we will have a chance to defeat them forever. So please, use all your courage to destroy their evil energy.
Adol, where have you been? It's me, Luda Gemma. I've brought you the Shield of Claria. You must have this to fight off Darm. Use it wisely.
Where have I been? I've been saving the world. What are you talking about? Okay, I'm going to show something off here. If you go down to this room, this is where we fought the Bat Boss in the first game. It's the same room. It's like the connection of the two games. I just always think that's really neat. Alright, final boss time. This boss is like moderately dangerous. I usually don't lose to him, but we'll see how it goes.
My followers and I were born from the dark magic of the Black Pearl. I am the living epitome of terror and destruction. You don't stand a chance against my forces of decimation. I shall crush and consume.
Time will be on final boss kill. You start out with the shield magic and you want to be aggressive because it's running out. And then once it runs out, you want to kind of switch to safety. Notice that I'm getting 3 hits per cycle here. I'll talk about that at the ending. I don't want to do too much commentary here, but just pay attention to that. I need to concentrate on this a bit. This is really good pace, actually. If I have him under half by the time my magic runs out, I feel good about this. Oh, nice. Time. Okay, that went pretty well. So that 3 hit per cycle thing is actually something that's really interesting about this that's not very obvious casually, which is there's a lot of stuff in that fight that's hard-coded. So depending on what level you come into that fight, if you come in at 80,000 or 85,000, you can only get 2 hits per cycle. He teleports away faster. If you fight him at 99, max level, you can get 4 hits per cycle. 90,000 is the lowest level where I get 3, and the fight's a million times faster at 3, because you don't have to chase him down for anywhere near as long. It's also a zillion times easier. So that's why 90,000. Thanks everyone for the GGs. 226 is a pretty good time. It's only about a minute off the world record, so that was still a good run. And now we get the ending. We talk to all the characters. We can play out a little bit of this, or you feel free to cut if you need to save the time on the marathon, but ending isn't mega long. Okay, yeah, we'll play out the ending. So we get, more lore and stuff here. All the characters kind of tell us their deal. So basically all these are the descendants of the various priests that have the books. And so, they all have a last name that's one of the books of East that we got. So there's, Tarf Hadal, Maria Messa, I guess Decca Dabby, Keith Fact, Luda Gemma, and Goban Toba. That's all the families. And then Lilia, because she's just here. So 3 from the top and 3 from the bottom, basically. East 1 and East 2. We get their thoughts. And then we'll get some animated cutscene stuff. Yeah, I really cannot express enough how great this game is. The easier games to get are the PC ones, Chronicles. Those are the ones most people have played. If you have the chance to play this one, if you can find a way to play it, it's a little hard to get your hands on sometimes. I really recommend this game because it's so good. And try to just put yourself back as a kid in 1991 playing this game, back before the Super Nintendo existed, and such a spectacle this is. Just the audio-visual experience of this game is so outrageously good, especially compared to what was on the market at the time. It's just a masterpiece. A criminally underappreciated game that I think needs more love. Ellen again. Yeah, I think this game's a little more respected in Japan, where the PC Engine was bigger, had more market share, and more people played this. The US, the TurboGrafx was just such a big flop that not a lot of people played this game when it was new, when it was contemporary. And it's kind of hard to appreciate games like this as a retro game, when you play it 20 years later, because it kind of blends together with other Elite games, But this was so ahead of its time.
Oh, Adol, I don't know what to say. How can I thank you for saving me? The basement of the shrine was such an eerie place. After that, I went to Jeva's house. I met a lot of people that I never knew before, and I learned a lot about the wonderful world of East. But the best thing that has happened to me is that I had a chance to meet you. For the first time in my life, I was able to speak with the heart of a girl. It is hard to feel human when your soul is of a goddess. Well, I must go. Lair is waiting for me. Adol, promise that you'll always remember the girl in me.
Alright, I can set the controller completely down now. All that's left is some music and some cutscenes. Can't beat the classic Adol armor. The shoulder pads. Now we get the final credits with the dancing characters. Look out for dancing versions of Dallas and Darkfact on this section. Yeah, stick with the dancing. Well, as this finishes up, I'll say thanks everybody for watching. There's Dallas. And thanks for chatting and hanging out. This was a lot of fun. Stay tuned for East 3 on the Genesis. We'll continue the series on the retro flavored experience of it. Here's all the voice cast, and yeah, this is really star-studded. This was before the era where games got good voice casts, right? Like, this just wasn't a thing yet. And they had the foresight to, like, let's just pay some real money for this and get some professionals and make it good.